saying that it's not going to stop. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to stop until we stop it. That's right. And it's not just white men that's doing this to Brenda, and it's not just white men that's keeping us trapped. Right. It's black. Right. You know what I'm saying? We have to find the new African in everybody, in all of us. Because if we keep running around looking for black and who got the most colors on and who got the baddest dashiki on, we still going to get...
Revolutionary greetings. Haki, Kweli, Shakur, man. Coming at you today. I want to drop this video real fast, real quick on this quick topic. This video was called The Eternal Oppressive Actions on Our Own. Violent acts on our own. Why we are out here murdering and killing each other. This is what the topic I'm going to touch on real fast and real quick. Our internal oppressive violent actions on our own kind. Why do we kill and murder each other? Mentality. And it's going to be real easy, man. Real 3 quick steps on why we are in the state that we are in right now, man. It's very simple, the reason why we are committing these violent oppressive actions on our own kind daily throughout every city in the United States of America. First, I just want to say I want to give thanks to all my subscribers for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I dig all the love and all the feedback from my videos. I hope I'm breaking everything down simple and easy as possible for you to comprehend it. So I just want to give thanks to all the subscribers, man, and super shout out to my ancestors, man, the ancestral energy, man, because I know they're working through me and I know they're proud of me. I just want to give a big salute to my ancestors, man. May y'all live forever. And thanks to the creator. And I want to go ahead and rock this video out. And I want to give a shout out to my kids, JoJo and Drea. I love y'all. Let me get on this topic real quick. It's very simple, man. You know what I mean? If you know our history and you're doing your research on the history of new African people and all the oppression and tyranny that we have been through for over 400, 500 years, man, you should know why we are treating each other the way we are and why we are here committing these murders on each other, man. I'm going to just start off like this, like it all stems from one system, man. One system only. European supremacy. But it goes deeper than European supremacy and white supremacy. European system and white supremacy is the origin of another mentality that we suffer from, syndrome that we suffer from. And that syndrome and mentality that we suffer from is self-hate. SHS, man. That's what I call it. Self-hate syndrome. This is what we are mentally and suffering from. The self-hate syndrome. Period. And European supremacy birthed this. So I just want y'all to do your research on those 2 terms I just mentioned, man. European supremacy, most of us call it white supremacy. Self-hate syndrome. Self-hate, period. Look that up, research that, and get familiar with that so you can understand the situation that we are in today. And I want to say this also, man. It's just one book. If you want a historical aspect on how we got from ancient destruction to modern destruction, I advise y'all to pick up that book, The Destruction of Black Civilizations, by the great Barbara Chancellor Williams, man. And you really would get a great understanding on what's going on with our people. And for real, I must say this before I continue. Grab every book that Dr. Amos A. Wilson has put out. And you really will get a psychological evaluation, a mental evaluation, and which ultimately leads to our physical evaluation and the physical state of being that we are in. You know what I mean? Grab every book from Dr. Amos A. Wilson. Period. Now let me get back to this topic. Man, like I said, I'm dealing with 3 ways that happened in our history that got us in this mentality and situation that we call self-hate and that's got us physically committing eternal oppressive violent actions on our own people, which is murder and every other, violent action on each other, man. The reason why we in so much of a disarray. The first wave. This ain't hard, man. The first wave, man, is the 400, 500 years of the worstest Holocaust, aka the Ma'afa, that has ever happened to a race of people on this planet, man. You know what I mean? That's the first wave, man. You know what I mean? When you forcibly remove a people from another continent and move them onto another continent, and all the dehumanizing mental, physical abuse that our ancestors went through on them ships, and the attacks that happened to our people on the continent of Africa, while this whole Holocaust was taking place, and removing our ancestors from there to here in the Americas, man, is psychological, man. It's psychological, mental, physical warfare. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think y'all understand what they went through, man. You know what I mean? And I'm going to link all this up to why we are the way we are right now. The Ma'afa, man. That's the first wave, man. Like, it gets no more worse than that. You know what I mean? Murdered, killed, abused, and enslaved. You know what I mean? Like, that just sums it up right there on the first wave of the reason why we are committing eternal oppressive actions, violent actions on our own people, man. And when we get to this continent, you know what I mean, we were going through conditions that are just so inhumane that it's mentally and physically beating down our ancestors, man. You know what I mean? Like, they stripped from their culture, they stripped from their spirituality, they stripped from their identity. You know what I mean? So they're lost people from the get-go. Our ancestors was a lost people when they got to this country, man. You know what I mean? So the whole time, keep this in mind. Who are showing us these actions? Europeans. And I'm not gonna get too much into the pointing the finger at that European, because we, like I say all the time, we know who the historical enemy is. But keep this in mind. All this murdering, all this dehumanizing, all these oppressive ways, we are learning this while we're being abused and in bondage from the Europeans. The European supremacy system. And at that time, we're getting colonized because we're getting stripped of our culture, stripped of our spirituality, stripped of everything we ever known before we got to this land. So that is forcibly making us become into a new people, because we're fending for ourselves. We're trying to survive. You know what I mean? In a new region, a new atmosphere, a new place. You know what I mean? So we becoming new people. You know what I mean? This is why we use the term New African, because we're no longer what we used to be, but we're a whole bowl, gumbo mix of every culture you can name from West Africa, man, Southwest Africa, the Caribbeans, because some of us went to the Caribbeans first, then came to the Americas. So all this is, tying into one thing, man. So, first wave, the Holocaust, the Ma'afa, man. We become a new people that's lost, trying to survive, man, in the hells of North America. Through all this, we get through that. We become new people, new Africans. You know what I mean? The whole time, we're still, this is another point that I'm trying to tie in. This slave master and this European supremacist system, the whole time while they're doing this to us, they're putting us against each other. This is what you must keep in mind. The whole time, they're using each other, they're turning us against each other. Because then you have where we're already being sectioned off, being segregated from once our own people. And then we're a bunch of people from different cultures and different nations and tribes from the continent. You know what I mean? So all this is confusion. You see what I'm saying? And some of that was starting to show up then, where he had the light-skinned slaves in the house and the field slaves in the field. So that was already bringing some kind of animosity between the field slave and the house slave. You know what I mean? Because that one in the house living a little better than this one. And that's where all these behaviors are starting to pop up. See, they showing us, you know what I mean, oppressive mentalities and oppressive actions early. You know what I mean? Because this video is strictly on our people in North America, man. I can only speak about our people in North America right now. You know what I mean? And the reason why we're murdering and killing each other right now. We go through all that. You know what I mean? Second wave. 1865. When we were so-called free. Which we really wasn't still free for the simple fact. We were still being oppressed to the worstest conditions and the worstest situations that humans can go through, man. Like, we still were getting treated less than a human. We were segregated from the European Americans. You know what I mean? We couldn't eat out no same restaurant as these people. We couldn't drink out the same water fountain. We couldn't go to the same bathrooms. We couldn't do nothing. We couldn't be in the same room with these people. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I mean? That's mental abuse. You see what I'm saying? Because they got you thinking that you're less than human than them, and they're God. They're in a God type light. They put in the light that they're the greater race, and you're nothing. You're less than human. You're an animal. You know what I mean? They put us to the level of animal. You see what I'm saying? So imagine what that's doing to our people mentally and physically. And through this whole period, we're getting hung, we're getting ran over, we're getting spit on, we're getting dogs sicked on us. You know what I mean? I mean, just the most dehumanizing conditions and actions brutally taken out on our people, man. You see what I'm saying? Getting peed on, our babies getting killed, stomped. You know what I mean? So it's just, oh man, like even talking about it just give me a little pressure, man, pressure rising. You see what I'm saying? But think about the second wave. The second wave from the time we was freed in 1865 all the way up to the Jim Crow era, where they had these laws placed on our people to keep our people in a mental enslavement. And you might well say physical, because we couldn't really do nothing. We couldn't go nowhere. You know what I mean? And when we did go somewhere, we had to be segregated from this so-called dominant race. And this is where the inferiority complex comes in. They made you believe that you were inferior and they were supreme. This is why no new African organization or formation should be using the word supremacy. Supremacy is a European oppressive colonized term on a planet which is I want to say every race is trying to reach, which is peace. Supremacy can't be present, because that's even in the ether, you know what I mean, 10 laws. Like, supremacy is evil. So we can't even use that word, you know what I mean? So I don't even know why cats even using that word. But that's their thing. I ain't even getting into all that, you know what I mean? So just think about that. That second wave from the time we were so-called free all the way to the Jim Crow. Jim Crow was showing you that we still wasn't no free people. You know what I mean? Jim Crow laws in the South. The South was hell. You know what I mean? So just think about that. And during this period of the second wave, you got to think about this. We were building stuff on our own. We had our own communities, like the Black Wall Street of Tulsa, aka Little Africa. We had the Black Wall Street right here in Richmond, Virginia, which was called Jackson Ward, aka the Harlem of the South. The other Black Wall Street in Durham, North Carolina, the black town of Boley, where the free slaves who got out of bondage built up their own town. And let me remind you, all these communities were independent and wealthy. I'm talking about some of the wealthy new African people that we ever probably going to see, even though in these times you got these bourgeoisie, boule, rich people. But I'm talking about as far as unity and doing something together, and it was done to help a people and not for self. You know what I mean? So this is what these communities represented. And 2 of them got destroyed. By who? Racist citizens and the racist law enforcement agencies. You know what I mean? Coming in, burning down the town, burnt down Black Wall Street, burnt down other towns across the United States, you know what I mean, that was black and independent, mainly in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma had like 7 or 8, 20 or 10 counties that was black owned. You see what I'm saying? And then by us going through all these abusive, oppressive situations in this, you know what I mean, in these cities, the Jackson Ward got ran down, the Boley, town of Boley got ran down because we couldn't sustain ourselves, man. You know what I mean? Because of the stuff we were going through from these people, man. You see what I'm saying? And Black Wall Street and all these areas are gone. So imagine what that did to New African people economically. You see what I'm saying? Like, that hurt us. Because there's no telling where we would be today if those towns would have been still around and still thriving. See, that's another thing with European supremacy. European supremacy doesn't subscribe to African, black independence and self-determination, man, which is international law. Self-determination and independence is an international law. Go look it up. And throughout these years, we've been battling against these people. They've been keeping us from self-determination and independence. Every time we tried to get something, they destroyed it. To this day, they destroy it. You know what I mean? So imagine what that's doing to us mentally and physically. You see what I'm saying? So we get to the third wave, the most deadliest wave of the reason why we have become eternal oppressors and committing eternal oppressive actions on our own and committing these violent acts on our people is the third wave. This is the wave where we were turned against each other. This is the wave where the U.S. government pushed up the attacks to keep us from growing as a people, man, and keeping us from our rights as humans, man. Period. The third wave is when the U.S. government and the help of people like the mob and other organizations push drugs in our community, push guns in our community, and this was in the 70s and the 80s, you know what I mean? Coming from that civil rights and that black liberation movements and their wars against this oppressive government and oppressive citizen. You see what I'm saying? So this is the third wave, you know what I mean? And during this third wave period is where they use the psychological, mental tactics to turn us on each other. You see what I'm saying? And saying that that's your enemy. Your own kind is your enemy. This was actually going on. This started in the black liberation movements, the civil rights movements, where the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and this oppressive government, Empire of America, was turning us against each other by using tactics to say, you know, propagandize propaganda that made us look at the other people that's supposed to be our people and we're supposed to be unified, look at each other different, like that's your enemy. And this is where all this trickles down into your street organizations that formed out of that. You see what I'm saying? Out of the black liberation era. So when these cats got temporarily destroyed, like the black liberation movements, the Panthers, and all these civil rights movements, and all these type of movements got destroyed. Our leaders was assassinated. Malcolm X was assassinated. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Panthers were being assassinated. Fred Hampton got assassinated. I mean, our black leadership was destroyed and neutralized. And most of them still in jail today with what we have you as the political prisoners. You see what I'm saying? So it's like black leadership is destroyed, so we don't have no guidance. There goes your guidance. Your guidance is gone. And every time somebody tried to step up and fulfill those shoes, they were suppressed, set up, jailed, or either assassinated. Period. And this is where your street orgs start to be born. and derive. You know what I mean? And when they coming up trying to fend for themselves and fend for their communities, you see what I'm saying? They're getting these tactics used on them, which is COINTELPRO. You see what I'm saying? And turning them on each other. Saying that's your enemy. No, he's not your friend, that's your enemy. Just because you black, that's not your friend, that's not your family, that's your enemy. This is what European supremacy is doing, man. The whole time. And then through that whole period, at that time, households was being destroyed. From the drugs, from the guns, and the system. Why the system? Because at the same time, the same tactics was being used on our households. The mother, the father were being turned on each other. You know what I mean? Because the system was getting in our women mentality, saying that the men ain't shit. You know what I mean? And they come in with these systems like the welfare system, saying that we'll help you. You know what I mean? You don't need him. We'll help you. You know what I mean? And this is when black fathers are getting pushed out the households and being replaced by a systematic, oppressive system, tactical at that oppressive system, a colonized system, which is welfare. You see what I'm saying? That's replacing our fathers, forcing our fathers into the streets, man. You know what I mean? And then black families are being pushed into the slums, pushed into the ghettos. You see what I'm saying? That's ran down. So we starting to live in inhumane conditions again from our origin when we got in this country. You see what I'm saying? So look at that. Same, they just reoppressing us over and over and over again. You see what I'm saying? And colonizing us over and over again. So at this point, everything is in disarray. You got families turning against each other, all because of drugs. You know what I mean? Because of system. You know what I mean? So we being separated from the get-go, subjugated. Every point and period where we tried to climb up out of our impoverished conditions, we get pushed right back, hammered right back down by the European supremacist system, man. This is throughout history. So at this time, we're starting to be enemies, man. Our communities are enemies. We're not getting along with each other. You know what I mean? So it's like the love was gone after the 70s and 80s. We're destroyed as a people, man. From the drugs. You know what I mean? Households destroyed. Fathers in jail. We're fathers forced to the street into criminality, where he got to sell drugs just to feed his family. So he's doing whatever he got to do, taking whatever he want to take out on our own people because we're in the same community. At that time, we wasn't going to other communities and trying to get retribution for what we're going through. We wasn't going to European communities and committing these acts. We were doing this on our own, each other, and in our own internal communities, man. Blocks became gangs. Blocks became territories from the drug dealing. He gotta, that's my spot to eat. That's his spot to eat. So they defending these spots. You see what I'm saying? We defending these territories that we don't own. But we're trying to survive. But we're enemies. And then this is where all this gentrification comes in the picture. Like, up to modern day time. All this gentrification that's going on. You know what I mean? Discriminations, false employment, corporation, being discriminated against. We couldn't get no jobs. You see what I'm saying? So, it's all our survival. If you know anything about street life, it's a jungle. It's all about survival. You see, and when you're living in these type of conditions, you're going to react with a violent behavior. Because mentally, you're full of hate. Because self-hate is a syndrome that's been taught to you by European supremacy. Everything we're seeing is being taught by European supremacy. We was getting taught by the educational systems. We getting taught about a history that's not ours. So we don't know who we are. You see what I'm saying? European education was detrimental to our people because we were kept from our previous history far as in ancient times in Africa. So we're not learning about ourselves. They teaching us that we're not human. So that's pumping up the self-hate disease even more and the inferiority complex. See, these are the two main complexes that is the reason why we're committing murders on each other daily. The inferiority complex and the self-hate syndrome. This is the reason why we're killing each other every day, man. And then gentrification in these times got us all, they bunching us up in communities, and this community don't get along with that community that they came from. They was previously enemies, and you bunching everybody up in these communities, and that's why we murdering each other. Because these people never got along. These people never got along. From the drug dealing, from the gang banging, straight up just project living. You know what I mean? Projects, enemies of this project, and we just committing a generational genocide of the same repeated cycle over and over. It's a repeated cycle. But I just want all y'all to know that the origin or the reason why we're murdering and killing each other is because we are hurt people. Period. And what does hurt people do? Hurt people hurt people. And the reason why we're hurting each other because self-hate. And self-hate was taught to us by European supremacy. This is why we're killing each other, people. It's not no more harder than that. Simple as that. Generational genocide from European supremacy, colonialism, and we're suffering from impoverishment of economic oppression. Period. Impoverished, hurt people are going to continue to hurt people because we still trying to recover from these 3 waves of attacks on our people by European supremacy. It's 3 waves, man. The Ma'afa, Jim Crow era, and what we have here now today, economical oppression, impoverished oppression. And we're recovering from the drug push and the drugs, the AKA so-called drug warfare, and the so-called war against drugs is really the war on new African communities because it destroyed us as a people, man. And we still trying to recover from that era. You got to think, man, this was just the 80s, man. Think about all the families that suffer from drugs and their babies born into this world off of drugs. So mentally, they coming into the world fucked up. And then we still being conditioned by the same educational system. We're still suffering from the same economic oppression. Nothing has changed. So what you think of people that hasn't been able to do anything on their own and haven't been able to grow because we still suffering from warfare, attacks on our people in this country? What you think they're going to do, man? We're going to continue to hurt each other. Simple as that. We're going to continue to kill each other. We're going to continue murdering each other until we can fix this on our own and sit down and try to fix these problems. And first, we must have economic independence, self-determination, socially and politically, man. We can't get no economic help. And then I'm going to touch on this real quick. People always want to ask me, do you think that music and television has something to do while we're murdering and killing each other? I say a small percentage. Because when you're dealing with a colonized people and people that never had nothing, and then you're seeing music videos and you're hearing these songs, cats talking about the cycle and the conditions that we living in and how they getting out of those conditions and still talking about the same oppressive conditions that we living in as far as drugs, gangs, hustling and all this type of things being glorified. So, and we still being taught the same educational system, and we're still an impoverished people. So we're seeing these people talk about it all the time on record and all the time seeing this on TV and in movies. We're going to repeat that cycle. Period. Music doesn't brainwash me, but I can't say that from everybody else because everybody don't think alike. Everybody don't think the same. So there's no telling what that music could be doing to that child or doing to that child. You see what I'm saying? Because these households don't have no fathers in it to regulate that type of stuff, man. To show them something different. Because you got one parent that got to work to death to try to take care of those kids. You see what I'm saying? So she's not going to have all the time in the world to educate this kid that TV and music is trust me, I mean, it got reality in it, but the ignorant side of it, we don't have enough parents in the households to tell our kids the difference between that's being not real and what's real. so they won't fall into wanting to follow a rapper, an entertainer, an actor. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, music and television is a program. You know what I mean? It's a programmer. So yeah, it's part of European supremacy also. So yeah, we're being programmed and re-indoctrinated with the same cycle over and over. So that's why I say music and TV, yes, it has a percentage on the reason why we're murdering and killing each other. Yes, it does. Because everybody don't think alike. And some of us just easy to be influenced because we walking around, we high all day, we drunk all day to try to escape our problems, try to escape our oppressive conditions. So we getting high off marijuana, we getting high off coke, we sniffing coke, we doing dope, and we walking around with guns in every community, strapped up, trying to freaking survive in the jungle. Simple as that, man. So that's why we're killing each other, but never forget the origin on why we're doing it. Run it down one more time before I shut it off. European supremacy, colonialism is the origin on why we're committing internal oppressive violent actions on each other. Why? Because out of European supremacy and colonialism comes SHS, self-hate syndrome. We were taught to hate ourselves and to hate each other. And out of that comes the inferiority complex also, which makes these set of people godlike and better than you, and your race is subject to being compared to animalism. You see what I'm saying? So it's all one big systematic mental psychological warfare is the reason why we're committing internal violent actions on our own, man. And as I close out, remember this quote from the comrade, Yusuf Bunch of Shakur, man. The reason why we're in the conditions we're in right now, the reason why we're killing each other is because we are hurt people. And what do hurt people do? Hurt people hurt people. And ultimately, because America hurt us. Simple and plain, man. America hurt us. Bob and Malcolm X told you, we victims of Americanism, man. That's why we doing this. And don't ever forget that, man. Don't point that finger nowhere else but European supremacy. And yes, we must have to take responsibility for that. Our actions and try to clean up our conditions the best we can. But it's hard when you go into systematic tyranny, systematic oppression, you know, economic oppression and poverty. It's hard, man. It's a marathon. That's all I can say, man. I'm going to shut this video off on that note. Haki, Kweli, Shakur, the Cedar Gabriel Prosser. This is why we're committing eternal oppressive actions on our own kind, man. European supremacy, self-hate, inferiority complex, suffering from that, man, and economical